and we're getting back to part two. I've been busy the last couple of weeks, and that's why I wasn't being able to post video back. Um, well, also today's Memorial Day, so I didn't have to work today, so I get to put up my video. Um, so um, so there were three general dinosaur faunas in the late Cretaceous period, and you got in the northern continents of North America and Asia, the major theropods were tyrannosaurids and various types of smaller um, ma- um, Maniraptorian theropods with a predominantly or ornithischian and herbivore assemblage of the hadrosaurids, the ceratopsians, the ankylosaurids, and the pachycephalarians. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but But in the southern continents that had made up the now splitting supercontinent Gondwana, abelisaurids were the more common theropods, and the Titansaurian sauropods were the common herbivores. Finally, in Europe, the dromaeosaurids, the rab, the rhabdodontid, the iguana, and the nodosaurid ankylosaurians and the Titansaurian sauropods were prevalent. Now, flowering plants were greatly radiating, and with the first grasses appearing by the end of the Cretaceous period, the grinding hadrosaurids and the shearing ceratopsians became very diverse across North America and Asia. Now, theropods were also radiating as herbivores or omnivores, with the therizinosaurians and or ornith the ornitho memosaurians becoming common in this place. Now, the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event, which occurred approximately 66 million years ago at the end of the Cretaceous period, had caused the extinction of all dinosaur groups, um, except for the orthi, ne, orthi, ne, the knee or Neethan birds. Basically, the birds survived, but dinosaurs all died. Now, some other the apsid groups, including the crocodilians, the dryosaurs, the sebo crustaceans, the turtles, lizard snakes, spenodontians, and the chorus dotarians also survived this event. Now, the surviving lineages of the neo orthine birds, including the ancestors of modern reptiles, of the modern ratites, ducks, and chickens, and a variety of water birds, that diverged rapidly at the beginning of the Paleogene period, entering the ecological niches left vacant by the extinction of the Mesozoic dinosaur groups, such as the arboreal whatever you call it, the aquatic hesperonychines, and even the larger terrestrial theropods in the form of Gastornis, the egg-worlds, Bathronids, whatever, and so on and so on. It's often stated that mammals outcompeted the Neorthines for dominance of most terrestrial niches, but many of these groups coexisted with the rich mammalian faunas for most of the Cenozoic era. Now, terror birds. Now the terror birds and the Bathronids occupied carnivorous guilds alongside predatory mammals, and ratites are still fairly successful as the mid-sized herbivores. And the egroids similarly lasted from the Eocene to the Pliocene, becoming extinct only very recently after over 20 million years of coexistence with many mammal groups. Now, dinosaurs belong to a very distinct group known as archosaurs, which also includes modern crocodiles. Now, with the archosaur group, dinosaurs are differentiated most notably by their gait. Dinosaur legs extend directly beneath the body, whereas the legs of lizards and crocodiles sprawl out to either side. Now, collectively, dinosaurs as a clade are divided into two primary branches. Um, Sauroschia, and Ornithischia. Now, Sauroschia includes those taxa sharing a more recent common ancestor with birds, and that's what the or Ornithischia. Ornithischia includes all taxa sharing a more recent common ancestor with the Triceratops than with the Sauroschia. Anatomically, these two groups can be distinguished most notably by their pelvic structure. Now, early Saurischians, like lizard hips from the Greek word sauros, meaning lizard, and ischion, meaning hip joint, retaining the hip structure of their ancestors with the pubis bone directed cranially or forward. Now, this basic form was modified by rotating the pubis backward to varying degrees in several different groups, which you have the Herrerasaurus, the therein saurids, and then you got the dromaeosaurids and birds. So, Saurosia includes the theropods exclusively bipedal and with a wide variety of diets, and the sauropodomorphs, long-necked herbivores, which include advanced quadruple groups. Now, by contrast, the ornithischians, bird-hipped from the Greek word upbic, meaning bird, and ischion, meaning hip joint, had a pelvis that superficially resembled a bird's pelvis. Now, the pubic bone was oriented caudally, which was rear pointing, unlike birds. The ornithischian pubis also usually had an additional forward pointing process. Ornithischia includes a variety of species that were primarily herbivores. Now, despite the terms bird hip and lizard hip, birds are not part of Ornithischia. Now, birds instead belong to Sauroschia, and the lizard hip dinosaurs, birds evolved from earlier dinosaurs, are lizard hips. Now, the following cladogram showing the relationship to dinosaur groups is simplified after Michael Benton in 2015, and you can see this here. These are all classifications of different dinosaurs. You got the Herrerasaurid. I'm not sure if I'm saying this all right, but you got different groups here. So you got all those there. Okay, so knowledge about dinosaurs is derived from a variety of fossil and non-fossil records, including fossilized bones, feces, trackways, gastrous, feathers, impressions of skin, internal organs, and other soft tissues. Many fields of study and contribute to our understanding of dinosaurs, including psychics, especially biomechanics, chemistry, biology, and the earth sciences, of which paleontology is a subdiscipline. Two topics of particular interest and study have been dinosaur size and behavior. Now, current evidence suggests that the dinosaur average varied throughout the Triassic, early Jurassic, late Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. The predatory theropod dinosaurs, which occupied most terrestrial carnivore niches during the Mesozoic, most often fall into the 100 to the 1,000 kilogram or 220 to 2,200 pounds category when sorted by estimated weight into categories based on order of magnitude. Whereas the recent predatory carnivorean mammals peak anywhere between 22 to 220 pound category. Now, the mode of the Mesozoic dinosaur body masses is between 1 and 10 metric tons, which is 1.1 and 11.0 short tons. Now, this contrasts sharply with the average. This contrasted sharply with the average size of the Cenozoic mammals, estimated by the National Museum of History as about 2 to 5 kilograms, which is 4.4 to 11 pounds. Now, the sauropods were the largest and heaviest dinosaurs, and for much of the dinosaur era, the smallest sauropods were larger than anything else in their habitat, and the largest was an order of magnitude that was more massive than anything else that has since walked the earth. Now, giant prehistoric mammals such as the para Paraceratherium, the largest land animal ever, were dwarfed by the giant sauropods, and only modern whales approach or surpass them in size. There are several proposed advantages for the large size of sauropods, including protection from predation, um, the reduction of an energy use, and longevity. But it may be that the most important advantage was dietary. Now, large animals are more efficient at digestion than small animals will, because food spends more time in their digestive systems. This also permits them to subsist on food with lower nutritive value than the smaller animals. Now, sauropod remains are mostly found in rock formations interpreted as dry or seasonally dry, and the ability to eat large quantities of low nutrient browse would have been an advantage in such environments. Let's go look at this paratrium, and says it was the largest land animal ever. Okay, it's like a rhinoceros, and that was like the largest rhinoceros to walk the land. Okay, so we got that. Now, when it comes to scientists, scientists will never know or be certain of the largest and smallest dinosaurs to have ever existed, and this is because only a tiny percentage of animals that were ever fossilized, and most of these remains buried, and most of these remain buried in the earth still. Few non-avian dinosaur specimens that were recovered are complete skeletons, and impressions of skin and other soft tissues are rare. And rebuilding a complete skeleton by comparing the size and morphology of bones to those of similar, better-known species is an exact art. And reconstructing the muscles and other organs of the living animal is at best a process of educated guesswork. Now, the tallest and heaviest dinosaur known from good skeletons is the Brachiosaurus. Its remains were discovered in Tanzania between 1907 and 1912. Now, bones from several similar-sized individuals were incorporated into the skeleton, now mounted and on display at for not the Museum for Naturkunde in Berlin, Germany. Um, this moment is 12 meters. This mount is 12 meters, about 39 feet high, and about 39 feet tall, and 21.8 to 22.5 and 22.5 meters, which is 72 to 74 feet long, and would have belonged to an animal that weighed between 30 and 60,000 kilograms, which is 70,000 pounds to 130,000 pounds. Um, Now, the longest complete dinosaur is the Diplodocus, which is 89 feet long, which was discovered in Wyoming and in the United States, and displayed in Pittsburgh's Carnegie Museum of Natural History in 1907. Now, the longest dinosaur known from good fossil material is the Patagotian. The skeleton mount in the American Museum of Natural History in New York City is 37 meters, 121 feet long. The Museo Municipal the Municipal Carmen Fumes in Argentina has some type of dinosaur has an Argentinosaurus reconstructed skeleton mount, and that's about 130 feet long. Um, Now these are some of the dinosaurs we're talking about here, and you see that here, basically like a long neck dinosaur, and then you got this one down here, and those are like considered the long neck dinosaurs, almost like a giraffe, because you know how a giraffe has a long neck. There were larger dinosaurs but knowledge of them is based entirely on a small number of fragmentary fossils, and most of the largest herbivore specimens on record were discovered in the 1970s and later on. And they include the massive Argentinosaurus, which may have weighed about 80,000 to 100,000 kilograms, which is 88 to 110 short tons, and they reach lengths of 98 to 131 feet long, and some of the longest were the 33.5-meter, which was the 110-foot long Diplodocus holorum. And then you got the Supersaurus, which was 108 to 112 feet long, and you also had the Patagonian, which was 120 feet long, and the tallest, the 18-meter, 59-foot tall Sauroposeidon, which could have reached which would have reached a sixth floor window. And there were a few dinosaurs that were considered either the heaviest or longest. And the most famous include the Amphicoelius fragilis, now known only from a now lost partial vertebrate neural arc described in 1878. Extra Extrapolating from the illustration of this bone, the animal may have been 58 meters, 190 feet long, and weighed about 269,000 pounds. Now, however, recent research has reclassified, excuse me, has reclassified the Coleus from the long gray cell Diplodocid to the shorter but much stockier um, Rabasaurid, and is now and now it's renamed as the Mora Punosaurus. This sauropod measured as much as 130 feet long, and it weighed as much as 120 kilograms, which is 260,000 pounds. Another contender of this title includes the Bronchiosaurus, a controversial taxon that was recently confirmed to exist after archive photos were uncovered. Now, the contender of this now the contender the Bronchiosaurus was a titanosaur and would have most likely weighed more than even the Muraponosaurians. The recent size estimates in 2023 had the sauropod reaching lengths of about 144 feet long, and they placed it in the range of 240,000 to 370,000 pounds. And if these upper estimates are true, the Bronchiosaurus would have rivaled the blue whale and the Colossus as one of the largest animals to have ever existed. And let's see what this Colossus is. Okay, it's a type of whale. You can see that here. So, like I said, I was trying to figure out what that is. Okay, so it's some type of whale that lived in Peru during the Bartonian age of the Middleocene period. Okay, so but the blue whale is fucking huge too. Anyway, the blue whale still exists in the ocean, and the blue whale is something called a baleen whale, and you can see that here. And this is what a blue whale looks like. This is an adult blue whale. I should write some of the stuff down, which I will probably. So maybe we'll do a video on the blue whale and another time. Now, the largest carnivorous dinosaur was the Spinosaurus, reaching a length of about 41 to 59 feet, but 59 feet tall, and weighing about 7.7 to 23.0 short tons. Other large carnivorous theropods include the Gigantosaurus, the Carcharodontosaurus, and the Tyrannosaurus. The Theransaurus and the Dinoscarus were among the tallest of the theropods, and the largest ornithischian dinosaur was probably the Hadrosaurid Shantangoras giganteus, which measured about 54 feet, and the largest individuals may have weighed as much as 16 metric tons. Let's go see what some of these dinosaurs look like. So this is what the one dinosaur the bird dinosaur called this one would have been the Gigantosaurus, and this is what it's supposed to have looked like. So you get an idea of that, and then we go to this other one, Spinosaurus. I think I oh that's the one with the spikes on the back of the on the back of the on the back. I remember something like that, and illustrations. Then you got this little big dinosaur, and this is at the Fenbrick Museum of Natural History, where the fuck that is. And Tyrannosaurus, I think, was the T Rex. The, this now this particular dinosaur was known as the shark-toothed lizard. Now, some birds were classified as dinosaurs. The smallest dinosaur known as is the hummingbird, is the bee hummingbird. Oh, sorry about that. I was checking a message. Now, I don't need so some birds, like I said, are considered dinosaurs, like the bee hummingbird. As you can see here, is considered to be the smallest dinosaur, and somehow they survived. Um, and they're only got a length of about only 5 centimeters, 2 inches, and a mass of around 1.8 grams. The smallest known non-avian dinosaurs were about the size of pigeons, and were those theropods most closely related to birds. For example, um, the Anchorian's Huxley is currently the smallest non-avian dinosaur described from an adult specimen, with an estimated weight of about 110 grams, and a total skeletal length of about 34 centimeters. And the smallest herbivorous non-avian dinosaurs included the Micro Certorius and the Wanosaurus. And let's go look these up. Oh, yep. Okay, you can see how small those are. You can see that that is tiny. This is a small. This means this dinosaur was called the small horn dinosaur. And then you go down here. Oh, no, that's not it. Monosaurus. Okay, yeah, those ones. Yeah, they were these dinosaurs. They CGI'd them in the movie Jurassic Park. Um, Now many modern birds are highly social, often found living in flocks. There is general agreement that some behaviors that are common in birds, as well as in crocodilians, closest living relatives of birds, were also common among extinct dinosaur groups. Their interpretations of behavior in fossil species are generally based on the pose of skeletons in their habitat, computer simulations of their biomechanics, and comparisons with modern animals in similar ecological niches. Now, the first potential evidence for herding or flocking as a widespread behavior common to many dinosaur groups in addition to birds was the 1878 discovery of the 31 iguanodon of the iguanodon, the ornithischians that were even thought to have perished together in Belgium, Germany after they fell into Belgium, like Brussels and everything like that, after they fell into a deep flooded sinkhole and drowned. Other mass death sites have been discovered subsequently, and those, along with multiple trackways, suggest that the gregarious behavior was common in many early dinosaur species. And trackways of hundreds or even thousands of herbivores indicate that duck-billed hadrosaurids may have moved in great herds, like the American bison or the African springbok. Let's see what the springbok is. Okay, it's a type of deer. Okay, almost like a gazelle. Okay, sorry about that. So a lot of dinosaurs are stuck with their own group, and there have been theories as to how the dinosaurs died. Now, you had the springbok. Yeah, yeah, because bisons usually moved in herds, and supposedly deers do too. Now the sor Now sauropod tracks document that these animals traveled in groups composed of several different species, at least in Oxfordshire, England, although there was no evidence for the specific herd structures. Now, congregating into herds may have evolved for defense, for migratory purposes, or to provide protection for young. There is evidence that many types of slow-growing dinosaurs, including various sauropods, ankylosaurians, the ornithopods, and the ceratopsians, so there is evidence that many of these types of slow-growing dinosaurs, including various sauropods, ankylosaurians, ornithopods, and ceratopsians, formed aggregations of the immature individuals. Now, one example is a site in Mongolia that has yielded remains of over 20 that has yielded remains of over 20 cyno rhythmomamus from 1 to 7 years old. This assemblage is interpreted as a social group that was trapped in mud. The interpretation of dinosaurs as gregarious has also extended to depicting carnivorous theropods as pack hunters working together to bring down large prey. Now, however, this lifestyle is uncommon among modern birds, crocodiles, and other reptiles, and the tapna and the tapnomamic evidence suggesting like pack hunting and such sauropods as the dino Statius and Allosaurus can also be interpreted as the result of fatal disputes between feuding animals and is seen in modern diapsid predators. Now, the crest and frills of some dinosaurs, like the margin the marginocephalians, the theropods, and the lambosaurines may have been too fragile to exist for active defense, and so they were likely used for sexual or aggressive displays, though little is known about dinosaur mating and territory. Head wounds from bites suggest that theropods at least engaged in active aggressive confrontations. Now, from a behavioral standpoint, one of the most valuable dinosaur fossils was discovered in the Gobi Desert in 1971. It included a velociraptor attacking a protoceratops, providing evidence that dinosaurs did indeed attack each other. Um, additional addition, Additional evidence for attacking live prey is the partially healed tail of an Edmontosaurus. Let's go look at the Edmontosaurus and see what the fuck that is. Okay, this. So the Edmontosaurus looks like that, and they said that was found in the Gobi Desert. The Edmontosaurus is a hydrosaurid dinosaur. The tail is damaged in such a way that shows the animal was bitten by a tyrannosaur but survived. Cannibalism amongst some species of dinosaurs was confirmed by tube marks found in Madagascar in 2003, involving the theropod, the Majongosaurus. The Majongosaurus is basically meaning giant lizard. Looks almost like a T Rex, but not really. By looking at this, comparisons between the scleral rings of dinosaurs and modern birds and reptiles have been used to to infer daily activity patterns of dinosaurs, although it has been suggested that most dinosaurs were active during the day. And these comparisons have shown that small predatory dinosaurs such as Dromaeosaurids, the Ventator, the Megapnosaurus were likely nocturnal. And let's see what the fuck these ones are. Okay, so this is what it's supposed to look like. This was the this is supposed to be the Jura Venator right here. Kind of hard to really tell, but and then you got this one. Okay, like that. Okay, yeah, these were all basically used in Jurassic Park where they did the CGI thing. So you get an idea. So now large and medium-sized herbivores and omnivorous dinosaurs such as the ceratopsians, saurodomorphs, the hydrosaurids, um, the ornithomosaurs may have been cathameral, whatever the fuck that means, active during short intervals throughout the day, although the small ones, the Ankylosaurus, were inferred to be diurnal, whatever the fuck that means either. Now, based on fossil evidence from dinosaurs such as the all right based on fossil evidence from dinosaurs, you got the all right Sotodromus. Some ornithischian species seem to have led a partially fossil burrowing lifestyle where they dug into the ground. Now, many modern birds are arboreal, meaning tree climbing, and this was also true of many Mesozoic birds, especially certain ones, while some early bird-like species may have already been arboreal as well, including the dromaeosaurids, such as the Microraptor. Most non-avian dinosaurs seems to have relied on land-based locomotion. A good understanding of this and how dinosaurs moved on the ground is key to models of dinosaur behavior. Now, for example, the science of biomechanics, pioneered by Robert McNeill Alexander, has provided significant insight in this area. For example, studies of the forces exerted by muscles and gravity on dinosaurs' skeletal structure have investigated how fast dinosaurs could run, whether diplosaurids could create a sonic boom via the whip-like tail snapping, and whether sauropods could float. Now modern birds communicate by visual and auditory signals, and the wide diversity of visual display structures among fossil dinosaur groups such as horns, frills, crests, sails, and feathers suggest that visual communication has always been important in dinosaur biology. Reconstruction of the plumage color of the Angorians suggests the importance of color and visual communication in non-avian dinosaurs. Um, a 2009 review indicated that non-avians used visual displays and possibly non-vocal sounds such as hissing, jaw grinding, or clapping, splashing, and wing beating, possible in the winged and possibly in the winged Maniraptorian dinosaurs. Now, fossilized larynxes or voice boxes have been identified in two dinosaurs, the Ankylosaurid and the Palosaurus, the structures of which suggest that dinosaurs were capable of complex bird-like vocalizations. A 2016 study concludes that some dinosaurs may have um, may have produced closed-mouth vocalizations such as cooing, hooting, and booming. These occur in both reptiles and birds and involve inflating the esophagus or the tracheal pouches. Now, such vocalizations evolved independently in extant archosaurs numerous times following increases in body size. Now, the crests of some hadrosaurids and the nasal chambers of ankylosaurids may have been resonators. Birds have also evolved a novel organ for vocalization and the syrinx, the earliest remains of which were found in a specimen of the duck-like the Vegas, the Vegas, the Vegavis, dates back to 69.66 million years ago, and the syrinx may have supplemented and then replaced the larynx as a vocal organ during the bird evolution. When it came to all dinosaurs laid amniotic eggs. Dinosaur eggs are usually laid in a nest. Most species create somewhat elaborate nests, which can be cups, domes, plates, bed scrapes, mounds, or burrows. Some species of modern birds have no nest at all, but the cliff nesting common guillemot lays its eggs on bare rock, and the male emperor penguins have kept eggs between their body and feet. Primitive birds and many non-avian dinosaurs often lay eggs in the communal nest, with males primarily incubating the eggs. While modern birds have only one functional oviduct and lay one egg at a time, more primitive birds and other dinosaurs had two oviducts like crocodiles, and some non-avian dinosaurs, such as Trudon, exhibited iterative laying, where the adult may lay a pair of eggs every 1 or 2 days, and then ensured simultaneous hatching by delaying brooding until all eggs were hatched. Now, when laying eggs, the females grow a special type of bone between the hard outer bone and the marrow of their limbs. The medullary bone, which is rich in calcium, is used to make eggshells. A discovery of futures in a Tyrannosaurus skeleton provided evidence of the medullary bone in extinct dinosaurs, and for the first time, allowed paleontologists to establish the sex of a fossil dinosaur specimen. Now, further research has found the medullary bone in the Carnosaur, Allosaurus, and the and the T- and the Tyrannosaurus, because the line of dinosaurs that includes the Allosaurus and the Tyrannosaurus diverged from the line that led to the Tetansaurus very early in the evolution of dinosaurs, and this suggests that the production of medullary tissue is a general characteristic of all dinosaurs whatsoever. Now, another widespread trait among modern birds, but see below in regards to fossil groups and extant megapods, is parental care for the young after hatching. Bob McCalla and Jack Horner's 1978 discovery of a Maiasaura, which day comes out to good mother lizard nesting around in Montana, demonstrated that parental care continued long after the birth of among ornithopods. A specimen of the Aboraptor was discovered in a chicken-like brooding position in 1993, which may indicate that they had begun using an insulating layer of feathers to keep the eggs warm. An embryo of the basal saurodomorph was found without teeth, indicating that some parental care was required to feed the young dinosaurs. And trackways have also confirmed parental behavior among the ornithopods from the Isle of Skye in northwestern Scotland. Now, however, there is an ample evidence of the precociality or the supercociality among many dinosaur species, particularly theropods. For instance, non the non or the non orno the so the non orn orna theromorph birds have been abundantly demonstrated to have had a slow growth rate. The megapode like egg bearing behavior and the ability to fly soon after birth. Both Tyrannosaurus and the Troodon um, had juveniles with clear super cocality and likely occupying different ecological niches in the adults. Super pre co cociality had been inferred for sauropods. Now, general structures are unlikely to fossilize as they lack scales that may allow the preservation via the pigmentation or the residual calcium phosphorate salts. And because both modern crocodilians and birds have four-chambered hearts, albeit the modified and crocodiles, it is likely that this is a trait shared by all archosaurs, including all dinosaurs. While all modern birds have high metabolisms and are endothermic, which means warm-blooded, a vigorous debate has been ongoing since the 1960s regarding how far back in the dinosaur lineage this trait extended. Now, various researchers have supported dinosaurs as being cold-blooded or somewhere in between. An emerging consensus among researchers is that while different lineages of dinosaurs would have had different metabolisms, most of them had higher metabolic rates rather than other reptiles, but lower than living birds and mammals, which is termed mesothermy by some. Evidence from crocodiles and their extinct relatives suggests that such elevated metabolisms could have developed in the earliest archosaurs, which were the most common ancestors of dinosaurs and crocodiles. After non-avian dinosaurs were discovered, paleontologists have first posited that they were ectothermic, which means cold-blooded, and this was used to imply that the ancient dinosaurs were relatively slow, sluggish organisms, even though many modern reptiles are fast and light-footed, despite relying on external sources of heat to regulate their body temperature. The idea of dinosaurs as being ectothermic remained a prevalent view until Robert T. Baker, an early an early proponent of dinosaur endothermy, published an influential paper on the topic in 1968. Becker specifically used anatomical and ecological evidence to argue that sauropods, which had hitherto been depicted as sprawling aquatic animals with their tails dragging on the ground, were endotherms that lived vigorous terrestrial lives. Becker expanded on his arguments based on energy requirements and the predatory prey ratios, and this was one of the seminal results that led to the dinosaur renaissance. Excuse me. Mm. Now, one of the greatest contributions to the modern understanding of dinosaurs physiology has been histology. Now, the study of microscopic tissue structure in dinosaurs. Now, from the 1960s forward, Armand de Rickles suggested that the presence of fib- fibro lamellar bone, which is a bony tissue with an irregular fibrosis texture and filled with blood vessels, was indicative of consistently fast growth and therefore endothermy. Now, the fibro lamellar bone was common in both dinosaurs and pterosaurs, but but even though they were not universally present. Now, this has led to a significant body of work in reconstructing growth curves and modeling the evolution of growth rates across various dinosaur lineages, which has suggested overall that dinosaurs grew faster than living reptiles, but other lines of evidence suggesting endothermy include the presence of feathers and other types of body coverings in many lineages. More consistent ratios of the isotope oxygen 18 in bony tissue compared to ectotherms, particularly as latitude and thus air temperature varied, which suggests a stable internal temperature, although these ratios can be altered during fossilization and the discovery of polar dinosaurs, which lived in Australia, Antarctica, and Alaska, where these places would have had cold temperature climates. And and the Saurischian dinosaurs' higher metabolisms were supported by the evolution of the avian respiratory system, characterized by an extensive system of air sacs that extended the lungs and invaded many of the bones in the skeleton, making them hollow. Now, such respiratory systems, which may have appeared in the earliest Saurischians, would have provided them with more oxygen compared to a mammal of similar size, which also having a larger resting tidal volume and requiring a lower breathing frequency, which would have allowed them to sustain higher activity levels. Now, the rapid airflow would have also been an effective cooling mechanism, which, in conjunction with a lower metabolic rate, would have prevented larger sauropods from overheating. Now, this trait may have enabled sauropods to grow quickly to gigantic size. Now, the sauropods may have benefited from their size, but their small surface area to volume ratio meant that they would have been able to thermal regulate more easily, a phenomenon termed gigantothermy. Excuse me. Like other reptiles, dinosaurs are primarily um, urocellulitic. That is, their kidneys extract nitrogenous waste from their bloodstream and exhale and excrete it as a uric acid instead of urea or ammonia via the uterus to the intestine. Now, this would have helped them to conserve water, but in most living species, uric acid is excreted along with feces as a semi-solid waste. However, at least some modern birds, such as the hummingbirds, can be facultatively ammonotelic, excreting most of the nitrogenous waste as ammonia. Now, this material, as well as the output of the intestines, emerges from the cloaca. In addition, many species regurgitate pellets, and fossil pellets are known as early as the Jurassic from the Anchiorians. Now, the size and shape of the brain of the dinosaur can be partially reconstructed based on the surrounding bones. In 1896, Marsh calculated ratios between the brain weight and body weight of seven different species of dinosaurs, showing that the brain of dinosaurs were proportionally smaller than in today's crocodiles, and that the brain of the Stegosaurus was smaller than any living land vertebrae. And this contributed to the widespread public notion of dinosaurs as being sluggish and stupid. And Harry Jerison in 1973 showed that proportionately smaller brains are expected at larger body sizes, and that brain size in dinosaurs was not smaller than expected when compared to living reptiles. Later research showed that relative brain size progressively increased during the evolution of theropods, with the highest intelligence comparable to that of modern dinosaurs, um, and calculated for the Trudontin Trudon. Now, the possibility that dinosaurs were the ancestors of birds was first suggested in 1868 by Thomas Henry Huxley. After the work of the Gerard Hellman in the early 20th century, the theory of birds as dinosaur descendants was abandoned in favor of the idea of them being descendants of generalized placodonts, with the key piece of evidence being the supposed lack of clavicles in dinosaurs. However, as later discovery showed, clavicles for a single fused wishbone, which derived from separate clavicles, were not actually absent, but they had been found as early as 1924 in the Raptor, but misidentified as an interclavicle in the 1970s. John Ostrom revived the dinosaur bird theory, which gained momentum in the coming decades with the advent of the cladistic analysis. And a great increase in the discovery of small theropods and early birds of particular note have been the fossils of the Johoi biota, where a variety of theropods and early birds have been found, often with feathers of some type. Birds share over 100 distinct anatomical features with other theropod dinosaurs, but they are most likely allied with Maniraptorian dinosaurs. A minority of scientists, mostly notably Alan Fiducia and Larry Martin, have proposed other evolutionary paths, including the revised versions of Hellman's basal archosaur proposal, or that the Maniraptorian theropods are the ancestors of birds, but themselves are not dinosaurs, only convergent with dinosaurs. Now, the female birds are one of the most recognizable characteristics for modern birds, and a trait that was also shared by several non-avian dinosaurs. Based on the current distribution of fossil evidence, it appears that feathers were an ancestral dinosaurian trait, though one that may have been selectively lost in some species. Now, direct fossil evidence of feathers or feather-like structures have been discovered in a diverse array of species and many non-avian dinosaur groups, both among Saurischians and Ornithischians. Now, direct evidence of feathers or feather-like structures have been discovered in a diverse array of species and many non-avian dinosaur groups, both among Saurischians or Ornithischians. And you got simple branched feather-like structures known from um, the um, heterodontosaurids, the primitive Neo-Northischians and the theropods, and the primitive ceratopsians. Evidence for true veined feathers similar to the flight feathers of modern birds have been found only in the theropod subgroup Maniraptora, which includes the Raptosaurus, the Troodontids, the Dromaeosaurids, and birds. Feather-like structures known as the pike fibers have been found in Petasaurus. Now, however, the researchers do not agree regarding whether these structures share a common origin between lineages and they are homologous, or if they were the result of widespread experimentation with skin coverings among the or the Nethydorians. And because feathers are often associated with birds, the feathered dinosaurs are often touted as the missing link between birds and dinosaurs. However, the multiple skeletal figures also shared by the two groups represent another important line of evidence for paleontologists. Areas of the skeleton with important similarities include the neck, pubis, wrist, semi-lunate carpal, and carpal arm, and the pectoral girdle, or the wishbone and the breastbone. But it says all non-avian dinosaurs and most lineages of birds became extinct in the mass extinction event called the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period. That's where a lot of the dinosaurs died. Um, but we can pull that up here. You got something called the Big Five mass extinction events. One of them was the dinosaurs. That's about it for today here. But next week when I get to it, we are going to talk about once I find it here. We're going to talk about possibly Ethiopia with the country, which is the country I do want to visit. Ah, God damn it. Yeah, so next week we're going to talk about the country Ethiopia, which is located in Africa, and we're going to talk about the history of Ethiopia. So that's the ending of the video. So hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos like this, and leave a comment. Let me know what you guys thought. And thanks for tuning in.